Hey Aquarius, welcome to, yeah, welcome to 2020. This is your year ahead reading. Whoops. High Priestess. Well, there you go. High Priestess vibes for you, Aquarius. I'm going to shuffle these, and then I'm going to pull from the top. We'll do the first half of the year, and then we'll move into the second half of the year. And then I'll pull a little angel card at the end, I guess, to see kind of what... Boop. Alright. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Alright. In January, we have Eight of Coins. February, Page of Swords. March, Nine of Cups. April, Two of Wands in reverse. May, Four of Swords. And June, Eight of Cups. Okay. Aquarius. Alright. You're starting off the year with the Eight of... Whoops. I dropped it. I'll get it. Okay. We're starting off with the Eight of Coins, which is really good for you. I feel like you're kind of... It's like you're starting work back up, and it feels a little bit like... It's like you're building a little bit more. It's like you're working and you're happy, and I don't get like any sense of like things not being beautiful and kind of like a nice peaceful start to the year, but it's kind of like with 2020 starting that you're looking ahead and you're just seeing how much further you want to go. And I think you're really starting off the year kind of maybe with like a renewed passion for what you're working on, and kind of it's like you're hitting the grindstone right away, and you're kind of like, it's almost like you're pushing yourself a little bit hard at the beginning of the year, just because like you do want to be building a lot of momentum for yourself. And I think you're just, it's like you're taking on a pretty ambitious idea of what you want your 2020 to look like. And so it's sort of, yeah, it just feels like that in January there's like a lot of planning and a lot of working and a lot of kind of yeah, not being completely satisfied, because you know that there's just more for you. So it's just kind of a busy month of work. February, Page of Swords. It feels kind of like there's some like truth coming out, but it also feels kind of like a little bit of nervousness, or a little bit of like lack of confidence, or a little bit of I don't know how I'm trying to say it. It's just like a vulnerability, but like a kind of like a lack of, I don't know if this is you or someone else like kind of delivering this message, since it's February and Valentine's Day and it's your birthday season. I kind of feel like it might be a little bit of like lovey vibes of kind of wanting to tell someone, like kind of like, honestly what I'm getting is like wanting to tell someone you have a crush on them but being nervous about it, or not knowing how to say it, or being afraid of rejection, but really also kind of like wanting to speak that into, and it doesn't have to be a crush, it could be like really any relationship in any situation, but it just feels like in February, like the big kind of like thing you're overcoming, and so then it feels a little bit more like maybe you, but kind of wanting to be honest with someone important in your life, or wanting to take a risk of some kind, but it's like so new to you, I think, because it's the page, so it just feels like kind of like you're stepping up and really learning how to like speak to people a little more authentically, and to be a little more vulnerable, but that is just sort of, you know, kind of maybe a little awkwardness, honestly. But it's okay to be awkward. It's super okay to be awkward. Like, I know we don't feel like it is okay to be awkward, but I honestly think our own awkwardness is also sometimes our bravery of being willing to show up and, like, try to connect with someone and, like, try to be genuine and also caring about the other person a little bit too much, maybe. So, and then in March we have the Nine of Cups, so it feels like whatever happened in February maybe went well, because this is kind of like the wish card, the dreams come, it's like the fulfillment of a wish. It's like kind of just getting to really enjoy yourself, and getting to enjoy yourself particularly in the sense of kind of adjusting and adapting to kind of a new start. Because, like, we're moving into the spring, and it kind of feels like the blossoming of something a little bit, in a literal way. So, it just kind of feels like in March, you're really getting to see things kind of start to work out for you a little bit more. And that there's just kind of a fun enjoyment with that as well. April, we have the Two of Wands in reverse, and that to me feels a little bit like maybe just because, like, in January you were starting something, and then in February you were kind of getting vulnerable, and then in March you were kind of enjoying the fruits of whatever changes kind of came into your life. It feels like in March there's like a change, and so then in April I think it's like you're kind of reconciling with the changes and the happiness that came in March. It's like kind of having to get real. It's like if you got into a relationship, like you get in your first fight, and then you have to like learn how you guys communicate and how you fight and how you resolve things. The Two of Wands is definitely about kind of like choosing new directions, but with you having it in reverse here, it just kind of feels like not quite sure about what way to go, and not quite sure about what path you're on. It feels a little bit like being lost, and a little bit like wanting to have some kind of answer to something, but not being able to see the answer or understand kind of what paths are available to you. And so I guess that leads us to May, which is really just chilling out and meditating. And, yeah, like, I think you have to, like, for whatever happiness has come into your life, and whatever is now something you're having to learn how to adjust to, I think in May, you're really, like, the pause is so important. Like, the pause to kind of reflect, be with yourself, be with your own thoughts, process everything that's happened up to this point, and kind of, like, make some peace within yourself and within the situation that is kind of, like, maybe a little discombobulating to you. And I do keep, like, thinking of love relationships, but, it doesn't have to be love. It's also, it could, again, be, like, about that project you're maybe starting in January, about, like, in March, you're like, oh, everything's working out, like, I'm making a lot of progress, and then sometimes we have to, like, rewrite our story a little bit, right? So it's kind of like maybe first 3 months of the year you thought you wrote this great first draft of your story for 2020, but then in April with the Two of Wands, you're like, oh shit, like, I need to, like, make some revisions. And so then in May, you're, like, maybe a little overwhelmed with that, but it's, like, you're just kind of also digesting and processing and, like, kind of stepping back from the story or the script, so to speak, to kind of get a little bit of, like, calmness so that you can reapproach it in June. And in June, I feel like Eight of Cups is about moving on from something that wasn't working, but this again feels like a little bit like, should I stay or should I go now? So if it were love, it's kind of like not knowing if your answer is, like, maybe breaking up and that this isn't your person, or if it's the project you're working on, it might feel like, oh, okay, maybe I just need to abandon it altogether. But let's see what comes up for the second half of the year. But I feel like the first half of the year it's like something new is coming to your life, and like in March it like feels all awesome and great, and then you're just kind of being sent back down to earth in like April, May, and June to kind of really get a clearer grasp on what is being asked of you and what is required of this kind of new endeavor, or this new thing that's coming to your life. And with the Eight of Cups being in reverse, it doesn't feel like you're leaving anything behind, but it really does feel like a question that you're grappling with about, like, which is the same kind of question you've been grappling with here in April. So I don't know that, but May is definitely important, I think, to allow yourself to process and digest and figure it out, because in June you have more questions. And again, I think we really need to see what happens in the second half of the year to get a clearer understanding of where the story for you is leading. But the first half of the year is like huge adjustments to kind of everything you wanted in a way. And this might be your own shit that's coming up, or just shit that comes up in general when we're moving into these new chapters. So it doesn't feel like negative. It just feels like you're really having to kind of like work through your blocks. And I think you're really also questioning, like, is this something within me, or is this externally just not right? So again, to like write it about a story, it's like, is this project, like, do I need to abandon it? Meaning, like, should I start something else from scratch, or will I find like kind of a key to what I need to make this? So, alright. July, Chariot reverse. August, Eight of Swords. Oh, okay. September, the Fountain in reverse, which is particular to this deck. September, October, Nine of Wands. Oh, okay. November, Six of Cups. And December, Five of Wands in reverse. So, it's so interesting. You're so, like, kind of in a weird stuck holding pattern for, like, the whole year. Because, so, like, we ended June with the Eight of Cups in reverse, right? So it's like, you're kind of, like, not wanting to abandon something, but also kind of, like, feeling like it's not working. And then in July, we have the Chariot in reverse, so it feels like you are attempting to move forward with something, but that it's just, like, really slow moving, and it feels a little bit heavy, it feels a little bit stuck. So, it's like, I get the sense that you're not giving up on your situation, but that you're also, it's just kind of a little bit slow, like, and maybe it is something that requires you to be slow and steady. I think it's, like, asking of more patience for you than maybe you feel like you have. And again, I'm not talking specifically about love or career per se. I don't want to, like, make you get in your head about a romantic relationship or a project you're working on. Like, I don't want to put you in a position where you're like, oh, well, some, like, tarot reader chick on YouTube said, like, everything's all fucked, so I didn't say that. I think what I'm saying more is that whatever is coming into your life in 2020 is also really, like, reworking, like, your inner world to such a great extent that I think you're having to learn how to slow down and grapple with big questions in maybe a way you really never have before. And so that to me speaks to, like, a lot of growth. I think in 2020 you're experiencing a lot of growth through whatever the situation is, but because it's a challenging growth, I think that you're wanting answers that maybe aren't really meant to be there. Like, I think you're meant to sit with the questions, kind of like that Rilke quote or whatever, but you just want to know. So I feel like August, it's like, I think you're feeling a little bit trapped, and again, I feel like you're feeling trapped because you want the resolution, you want the answer, but it's not abundantly clear one way or the other, and so it feels a little bit unsatisfactory rather, kind of like, I guess, so I keep making this about writing just because that's feels like a kind of good way of talking about this process, but it's like, you started the script in January, you're really excited about it, and then in March it was like, oh, I wrote my first draft, it's amazing, and then in April you were like, oh, I don't know, is this something I should keep giving my energy to? And then in May you were like, let me put this in the shelf. And then in June you were like, well, I don't want to abandon it, but I also don't know that it's totally working. And then in July you're like, I'm gonna keep moving forward. And then in August you're like, oh fuck, what has this, like, you feel like you wasted your year maybe by August is kind of like the thing. But I think that really, again, it's like coming from a sense of impatience and like not really understanding that what you're going through is less about the external situation, it's less about the relationship, it's less about the project, it's less about the result, and it's more about how this thing that is in your life is really, again, shaping you. So, September, we have the Fountain in reverse, and the Fountain is kind of like, to me, the void, like the Big Bang, like where everything came from. It reminds me of that scene in 2001: A Space Odyssey, where he goes through Stargate, and it's like all those like lights are like flickering at him, and it's kind of like he's going through like this weird other dimension. And so I feel like in September, it's like really hitting you the ways in which this whole process and this whole year has been about like fundamentally like changing all the molecules in your body in a way. Like you're becoming this brand new person through this experience and through whatever it is that you're going through. So much of the year is you like doubting this process and like doubting that, like you just feel like you're spinning your wheels a little bit and like you're kind of trying to force things. But I think in September, I think you're getting a deeper understanding of how this situation is so much bigger than like really anything you've ever dealt with maybe, and that like it changing you and who you are is what it's about. It's not about you selling your screenplay. It's about how you working on this story is helping you unlock parts of yourself, of your own psyche, that have been hidden to you for your entire life. It doesn't matter how the external world appreciates or understands what you're working on. What really matters is that it's like fundamentally bringing you back to the origins and the core of who you are, your true, authentic, genuine self. And with it in reversed, I think it's just a little bit of a mind fuck for you and a little bit hard for you to accept. Like, because I think a lot of this is like also kind of bringing up your control issues is what I'm getting. So it's kind of like an acid trip. It's like an acid trip that, I've never done acid myself, but it feels kind of like an acid trip that like brings this revelation to you that is also like maybe a little bit painful, or a little bit like having to face a little bit of a fear. It's not a bad thing, it's just to move through it, you have to feel it, and I think you're feeling it, and I think you're kind of understanding the rest of 2020 in like a really more profound way. And then September, October, Nine of Wands, I think there's a renewed sense of like working on it. Again, the screenplay, the relationship, the thing, but I think it's like, you know, it's going to take work, and it's going to take work from within yourself. It's like kind of about you're having gone through September and now have like, okay, I'm going to keep going, I'm going to keep devoting myself to this, but I just know that it's going to like take more persistence and resilience, and kind of just that you're not quite at the finish line, but that it is like, I think in October there's like a renewed sense of, yes, this is important, yes, like I want this, yes, I see how this is like shaping me and like making my life better, but there's also you know, just a little bit more hard work that's being asked of you. In November, it feels like you're finally kind of like getting a little bit of calmness and a little bit of a respite, a little bit of like peace after a very challenging year. It feels like you're kind of getting to look back and like kind of about your whole life, maybe even. But there's like a sense of nostalgia with the Six of Cups, but I also feel like there's kind of like a peaceful joy of like childhood with the Six of Cups as well. Meaning like that you are kind of just able to be present a little bit more and kind of, yeah, it just feels kind of like maybe appreciating the year as a whole as well. Like that you're able to see the good things that happened as well as kind of, because like it's almost like my grandma is 94 and she doesn't remember a lot, but everything she remembers was like only the good stuff, and she's like, I guess it's a blessing that you forget all the shitty stuff and that you only remember the good stuff in the end. And that's kind of what I feel like November is for you. It's like you're kind of just looking back and looking and recognizing all the gifts that you got in 2022, like that. Okay, it was actually kind of a good year too. Like, even though it was a challenging year, all these great things happened, and I didn't really get to appreciate them in the moment, but now I'm really getting to kind of see them kind of with a new perspective. And then we end the year in December with the Five of Wands in reverse. So it kind of feels like, to me, it's like a little bit of like letting go of the fight or like letting go of the conflict within yourself more than the external world, but it's kind of like a truce or a treaty. It's peace treaty. Like that you're gonna like end the year kind of closing it out with less inner. It's just that a lot of the conflict maybe came from like internal resistance or internal pressure you were putting on yourself. And in December, I think you're kind of just like learning how to let some of that go and allow yourself to be changed by what you've been learning. So you're kind of like, or if it's someone else you've been fighting with, then maybe you're just like making peace with that. And, so yeah, it just feels like very much like kind of the end of a fight and the beginning of a better start. So it's kind of a crazy intense year for you, Aquarius, based on this, but I'm going to pull a little angel for you. See what comes up. Okay, we got... I'm not going to take 3, sorry. Okay, here. Okay, you get 2. We have... Oh my god, these are perfect for you. We have the Angel of Transformation and the Angel of Surrender. So, the Angel of Transformation. I'm aware of the divine energy that moves my being and transforms me into who I truly am. Transformation is a mysterious process that includes many changes in itself. The caterpillar that becomes a butterfly, the cream transformed into butter, the lead of heavy... I'm reading this backwards. The lead of heavy vibrations into the gold of the soul. From one level to another, an inner alchemy is processed, and suddenly we are transformed into a new dimension. Transformation happens naturally as we surrender to the flow of divine energies that give life to all there is. And then we have surrender, its counterpart. I surrender joyfully to God's love in my heart. When we surrender to our soul's guidance, we realize the greater picture of our lives. We also become aware of the help we receive to be free from burdens of the past or from negative energies that prevent us from seeing our inner strength and beauty. When we consciously surrender to the soul, which within, we can easily forgo all else with simplicity and whenever necessary. So, I mean, yeah, 2020 is a hugely transformative year for you, and I think that getting through that transformation process is all about this other process you're learning of surrender, and kind of like letting the process happen to you rather than you trying to control the process, which I think will be your impulse at the beginning. But I think you'll be being taught very deep lessons about how to give up that kind of sense of control and to get into the flow and surrender. So crazy 2020 for you, Aquarius, but a very transformative, beautiful, great year that I think is going to like literally be a life-changing year. It'll be like, this is the year my life changed forever in what will end up being really beautiful ways. So I love you, and I'll see you for your January reading. Bye.